of a tutorial about how you're going to complete your long-term project on the 5 causes of climate. And just so we're clear, we were going to do this project in the classroom, on Google Classroom, in Google Slides. So I've made some modifications to it so that way you'll be able to do it at home. But this is not like something crazy new. This is a project that we normally do in the classroom. So for the project, you are going to be picking a climate zone, and there are going to be a list of 8 of them for you to choose from, and you're going to not only be investigating what is that climate like, what is a tropical wet climate, what is an arid climate, you're also going to be investigating what causes the climate to happen in a particular city. So this means you're going to need to go back and look at the 5 causes of climate, which are latitude, elevation, ocean currents and winds, distance from bodies of water, and terrain. And you're going to apply those 5 to help you understand why a particular city has the climate it does. So in a few moments, I'm going to walk you through the resources that are in Google Classroom. Like we would do in the classroom, there is an assignment sheet paper. It's posted in Google Classroom, and it walks you through the instructions or the requirements of the project. The only part that is not in Google Classroom is the grading rubric, because as of right now, nothing's being graded. So unless that changes by district regulations, this is not actually assigned, it's not actually graded, and the good news is you don't have to stand up and present this because we're not in school. You're just going to need to complete the slides that in a normal circumstance you would actually present. So please make sure to check out this assignment sheet. I know that I did put a due date on it, but technically everything's due by the end of the year in June. I'm not really sure if that due date is relevant, so that is the resource for you. Now normally in the classroom I have the 8 different dossiers for the different types of climate, and we would do a raffle, and your group would get to choose what you're doing, but obviously that's not going to happen. So I've had to electronically upload these dossier folders. So what would have been in the dossier, so this one says humid subtropical on the front. This is all the information that you need if you're doing the humid subtropical climate. Inside the folder, it tells you the name of the focus city. So if you're doing the humid subtropical climate, you would be doing Tallahassee, Florida in the United States as your focus city. And then in here would be a bunch of resources. One of these is a map that shows the global convection currents, the Hadley cell, polar cell, and Ferrel cell. This paper is in Google Classroom for you. There would also be a paper that has the angle of sunlight at different latitudes. This is also in Google Classroom. You would have also received printouts of the climate information. This is available on Google Classroom by going to the actual website that I printed this from. So the good news is all of the things that you would have been getting in your arid climate folder or in your tropical wet dry folder, all of this information I was able to load online because I was lucky enough to pick these folders up on last Monday when I went to school. So I still have them here. I have all the information. I just can't hand it to you like I would normally do in the classroom. So you're going to use the information that's on Google Classroom that was in these folders in order to fill out the slides for your presentation. And again, I'm using the word presentation in quotation marks because you actually won't be presenting this to me. One of the things that I'll show later in the video is I've also provided a sample presentation. So my sample presentation happens to be about the ice cap climate, and you can definitely look through this presentation to give you ideas about how to fill in your own climate presentation. And I'll show that a little later in the video. So The bottom line is I am giving you a chance to do your own learning. I want you to do some research and learn a little bit more about one of the climate zones on Earth, and also investigate the 5 reasons or the 5 causes of that climate. Now let's take a look at what's in Google Classroom and how you're going to use those resources to complete your work. All right, everybody, I'm going to walk you through on my computer screen how to access the resources you need for this project. Now, I realize that my view of Google Classroom is going to look a little bit different than yours, but it's essentially the same thing. So here is the kind of assignment announcement like you see in Google Classroom, but what I want to focus on is what's underneath it. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things attached. So I know that there's a lot attached to this, so I'm going to walk you through step by step how to use them. So after you finish watching this video, the first thing you should open is the climates to pick from file. That's a PDF, and it looks like this. Okay, and it's got a list of the 8 different climate zones and 8 different focus cities you can pick from. Like I said in the video, in the classroom, we would do this as a raffle, but you actually get to choose whatever you want, which also means that if every single student in the class picks a subarctic climate, then that's okay, right? We don't all have to be doing different climates. Just remember that if you pick a climate zone like tropical wet, your focus city is right next to it, right? So you can't choose, oh, I want to do tropical wet dry, oh, and I'm going to do it for Baker Lake, Canada, because they do not match each other. You have to look across. Right? So if I am going to do tundra, that means my focus city is Baker Lake, Canada. So if I notice that and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do Canada, then I don't want to pick tundra. Maybe instead I'm going to decide, oh, I'm going to do the tropical wet dry climate zone because that focus city is Brasilia, Brazil, and I feel like I can do a better job. Maybe I have done a previous research project when I was in elementary school about Brazil, and I already know a lot about it. So it doesn't matter, which side you look at, but just make sure you realize that when you select a city or when you select a climate zone, there's already one attached to it. So that's the first thing you should do is decide, hey, which of these 8 am I going to research? Which one of them am I going to do? After you make that decision, it's a good idea to pop over and take a look at the assignment sheet paper. This provides you a little bit more how-to information, right? So it says task breakdown step number 1. Pick your focus city or climate from the list of 8 options, and I just talked about doing that. The second thing you'll do after we're done looking at this paper is you'll open the Google presentation doc that has already been set up for you, and then you'll start making your way to filling in the information using a website called Climate Types for Kids and using resources pages that are in Google Classroom. And then before we go over to that, let me just scoot this down here so we can see. You've got 10 different slides that are in your Google presentation template that you need to complete. In reality, it's really only 8 slides because the first slide is a title slide, so you're just writing the title on it and your name, and then slide number 6 is also another title slide. So if you really think about it, you only have 8 slides where you have to do actual research and information. And again, this list here just walks through for you what each slide is about and what you need to put on each slide. And all of this information is provided on the Google slide itself, but it's helpful to come back to here. If you accidentally delete it, you can remember, oh, what was supposed to be on slide number 5? Oh, I'm supposed to list the types of vegetation, those are the plants in the climate, and the types of animals. So that there is a really important information source, especially if you accidentally delete things in the Google slides. So now let's go to what it said for step number 2. right? Opening up the Google presentation that has already been set up for you. So let me flip back over to here. So here is the blank version that you've been given. The only difference between what's on my screen and yours is up here where it says the title. After it says Causes of Climate 2020, it's going to have your name written there. Please, 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 oh, I beg of you, use this template. If you just try to start a Google presentation from scratch, you are making your life way more difficult than you need to. Okay, so going back to the steps I needed to do, I believe I said a moment ago that we were going to do tropical, wet/dry climate. So I fill that in there. I fill in my name, which is going to be Herbert Hoover. Well, not Herbert, yeah, Herbert Hoover. You know, fill in your name. So again, all you need to do on this first slide is fill in the name of the climate and your own name. I would also, before I go any further, I'm going to flip down to slide number 6 because this is another quick, easy one that I can fill in. So I'm going to delete the dotted lines and I'm going to write in the name of my climate, which was tropical, wet/dry. And if I remember from the list I looked at, my focus city is Brasilia, Brazil. So that's what you do on that slide. You just copy over the information. That way your reader also knows what you're talking about. And remember, it might not be tropical, wet, dry. Maybe instead I am doing the causes of an arid climate. And if I'm doing that, then my focus city is going to be Cairo, Egypt. Okay, so you just fill this in for the climate you're picking. And then if I go back up here to slide number 2, I see that it says climate zone location. So this is where I want the global location or latitude range of the climate zone and example countries or areas covered by the climate zone. Where am I going to get this information? Oh, look down here. Ms. Besor has already conveniently put a link. If for some reason you end up deleting that, if we go back into Google Classroom, you'll also see it listed there where it says climate types for kids. So let me just click on that so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, and when you do that, it takes you here to climate types for kids. You can see over here is the menu. So if in the last example I was doing, I was selecting arid, I'm going to click on arid. I've got a nice little map here in this paragraph here. It tells me about the latitude measurement I find it. Also here, where is arid climate usually located? This is the information I'm going to need. So if I look up here on the map where I'm looking for what are example countries, oh, I can see Australia is one of those countries. I can see some parts of India, some parts here of China. And then if I'm not sure about, like, oh, is this Egypt? Is this Liberia? Remember that I can open another tab. I can go to Google Earth and I can find out where this is, right? So if I don't know, for example, that this red splotch is in Mexico, I can look that up. So where is the climate located? That is slide number 2. If I go to slide number 3, what is the climate temperature patterns? Oh, it's right down here when it says, what are the temperatures like in arid climate? Slide 3, climate precipitation patterns. Oh, right here, how much precipitation does arid climate receive? And then finally, climate vegetation and animals. I scroll down a little bit more. Oh, and it tells me here, let me go back up, the vegetation or the plants, and it gives me examples of some animals. So that's how you very easily do the first 5 slides, is you use the website that's listed the climate types for kids. The next part is obviously, I'm going to tell you right now, it's more difficult. It is much harder because I don't necessarily have a website posted for you. So for the focus city, latitude, and angle of sunlight, I do have a website listed here, but it's actually the picture that I already have for you in Google Classroom that you can use. And in order to find the latitude of your focus city, you just need to go into Google Earth, Type in the name of your city and it will give you your latitude measurement. This one is a little bit hard because you're going to need to write a sentence here that explains what the angle of sunlight means. And again, if you're getting stuck on that, go back and look at your notes from February when we did the angle of sunlight in class. The next slide, number 8, is the atmosphere influences. That's the convection cell affecting your city, and it says use the paper posted in Google Classroom. So remember, if I go back to Google Classroom, that is this paper here called Climate and Winds. It looks a little bit like this, and I will need to know my latitude measurement because remember, if I know my latitude measurement, then I just need to move my finger over on the screen and that'll tell me, oh, am I in the Hadley cell? Is this the Ferrel cell or the polar cell? Remember, you also have a similar picture and information in your notes. And then when it's asking you to explain about that cell, that's where this information over here about the different latitudes and what's happening to the air is going to be useful, right? And remember, like if you're down here at 90 degrees south, you obviously follow the arrow up here to 90 degrees latitude because remember, there's a north latitude and a south latitude, but they have the same numbers. Okay, and then that was slide number 8. Slide number 9 is ocean influences. To do this, you'll need to go to Google Earth, right? You'll need to put in the name of your city, and then there is a way that you can measure distance to the ocean. It's kind of like getting driving directions, right? It will tell you how far away your city is from the water, and then you're going to explain how that influences the temperature of the city. And remember, that means you might want to look at the video on causes of climate because that talked about how the ocean influences climate. And then the last slide, number 10, is going to be about the elevation of your city and the terrain. Again, one of the best places to go for this is Google Earth. Google Earth can provide us latitude. It can provide us information about elevation and then terrain features. Some of this you can do on Google Earth because if you zoom in and out, you can get an idea for the shape of the land using the satellite images. And you can also just do a general Google search, right? Type in the name of your city, Cairo, Egypt. Type in the name of your city, Warsaw, Poland, and you will be able to get some information about what the land is like because that kind of information is definitely available on the web. And then, of course, the hard part is explaining how that elevation and terrain influence temperature and precipitation. Don't forget, look at the video on causes of climate because we already talked about how elevation and terrain influence climate. Okay, so again, slides 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 have to do with your focus city, whether that's Cairo, Egypt, whether that's Warsaw, Poland, whatever it might be. And then going up again here, slides 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, those all have to do with your overall climate. It might be tropical, wet, dry. It might be humid, subtropical. So that is how you fill this in. And remember, all of this information can be referenced in Google Classroom. And if you're getting stuck, don't forget to look at my example, right? I've given you a sample presentation on ice cap climate. That's not one of the climates you can pick because I'm doing it for you. So if you get stuck and you're like, what did Miss Basor put on slide number 2? Or what do I need to put on slide number 8? You can go into my sample presentation on ice cap climate to find out more. I will post some more hints and advice as we go through the rest of this week, but I'm turning over the learning to you and giving you an opportunity now to do your own research and do your own learning about causes of climate. Have fun!